All right. Good morning. This is gonna be number two. So when I was gonna set up for y'all. I'm calling this one freight lane selection versus freight lane destruction, and I'm gonna talk about some of the cabotage issues coming up with some of these lanes, particularly lanes coming out of Texas, and then lanes returning from Texas or returning from the southeast coming back into Texas. And this is also the case for Illinois, like Chicago and stuff like that. You're laying okay, so anywhere where you have direct Mexico freight outbound and a need to get the truck and the driver back to Mexico inbound, you're gonna have a weak return lane. Okay. And so I kind of told y'all a long time ago, please subscribe and start reading freightwaves.com. Like I alluded to in the other video, to be successful in this business, I recommend you all start to consume a lot more information regarding the entire transportation industry so you can get an idea of stuff that's coming your way before it gets to you. Okay. And so you can adjust your operation before you're forced to adjust your operation. So you can kind of be ahead of the curve a little bit, right? So, hey, start reading Freight Waves on a daily basis. But they have a story on here called U.S. carriers illegally hiring Mexican drivers to haul loads. Okay, some of y'all, if y'all run these lanes, like I said, to the southeast from Texas to Illinois, Chicago area from Texas, even some of the stuff going up to Detroit, you're going to see a lot of carriers that have dual license plates on their trucks. These are trucks that go into Mexico. They have the plate to go into Mexico and come back out. They're supposed to have a Mexican driver for the Mexican leg and an American driver for the American leg, because you all know there is a difference in price for the say the Mexican driver versus the American driver. Okay, or a difference in pay. So the issue is, if you read through the story, you know the deal. You have, if a carrier comes in from Mexico or from Canada for that matter, they're not supposed to haul loads point to point inside the United States. They're supposed to be doing direct freight. So either they go all the way through, say if they're going into Canada, or they go, say a Canadian driver comes in, he might go to, say he's coming in from Canada going into, Toledo, Ohio. Well, he's supposed to be coming right back out and going back from Toledo to Canada, or picking up something in that area going back out, right? But he's not supposed to go like Canada, Toledo, Chicago, Memphis, Lexington, then back out to, Canada. It's not supposed to go that way. Same thing with a Mexican carrier. All right. Because you have a difference in well, there's reasons for it. So anyway, what they're basically saying is, in this story, you have a lot of American carriers that are now starting Mexican fleets. Okay, we already knew this from like your Swifts and stuff like that. You could see some of these trucks. What do they call it? Transmex or something like that. There's Swift trucks, but you can see they have the normal Swift plate, plus they have a Mexican plate on them. Okay, and they usually haul Swift trailers and so on and so forth. So a lot of carriers have started to do this. So when you look at the lanes and the rates on the return leg of these trips, so say you have a carrier, you go to Mexico, you go from Texas to Atlanta, and you see the return rate from Atlanta back to Texas is, $1.20 a mile or some crap like that. He's the man that's discussing this in the story is kind of giving you the reason why that's the case. Okay, because they're probably paying less overhead for their drivers to begin with, and they have basically destroyed that lane uh, because the freight coming back, say if you're domiciled in the area, say if you're in Atlanta or something, your freight outbound from Atlanta, your rates are depressed because you have people coming into that area with inbound freight needing to return back to their origin point, and it's dropping the rate for everything outbound out of that area. Okay, And I'm starting to I'm thinking that eventually what they're going to do, I don't think they're going to do this intentionally. They're going to do this by default. They're going to destroy the model that we've been operating under for, a couple decades with this backhaul crap. And what they're going to start doing is they're going to make it pointless for people to leave their area and haul loads out of their area because the rates are going to be so depressed. So your backhaul game is going to be over. If you go to certain areas, and if it's an area that's serviced by a non-American domiciled companies, like, so if you have people coming in breaking the cabotage rules and those rates stay depressed, people are going to stop coming into that area except for these drivers who are breaking the cabotage rule. And if that continues, you're going to probably have people stop servicing those areas, which I believe will probably raise the rates eventually. So I think they're shooting themselves in the foot. So if you talk about, like, say, I'm in Texas, right? What we do here, I know people who haul, say, grass, right? If you haul grass, you don't do a backhaul. So if you come out of the Houston area, you go to Dallas or something like that, you don't do a backhaul. You don't waste the time to deal with a backhaul that'll take your whole next day because the money you get for the backhaul doesn't justify the time spent doing the backhaul. Okay? And that's probably what we're going to start to see happening in a lot of other areas where a lot of this freight's going to get, it's crap. It's garbage freight anyway. So nobody's going to mess with it. And it's and so in the prior story, I talked about Arnold Transportation going out of business. I talked about Raven going out of business. And I guess and y'all can comment, please, if y'all think this is possible or not. But these large carriers are the main culprits in doing this stuff, which is this: I get my money on the head haul, I take a loss on the backhaul crap. Okay, and they're the ones that have given the word to these brokers to start to structure this stuff like this, and that's how they make their money, because they look at the amount of trucks in the area and they say, okay, somebody will take this load for sub $1.20 a mile because they got a glut of 800 trucks here that need to go back to Texas. So they drop that rate, and then somebody will still take the crap. Now they might have charged the actual their end customer full freight on that freight. That freight might be 240, 250 a mile, $3 a mile, but they can get somebody to haul it for $1.20. They will. Okay, and since they know you got all these carriers coming in needing to get back to a certain area, that's why they dropped the rate. But I think what's going to happen, so that's why I'm bringing up Texas. We got people here. Look, man, pipe. Same thing with pipe, right? We haul pipe out of the Houston area, go to West Texas. Some people will deal with backhaul. They'll pick up a load of cotton, paying $600 to come back to Texas, back to Houston. You got a load of cotton that you got a tarp, and you're gonna lose the whole next day when you get back dealing with that crap for $600, when you can just grab a little load of pipe and go back out there for $1,700-$1,800, $2,000. So why would you do the backhaul? Same thing. You can get a load of scrap cars coming out of West Texas. Same thing. $500-$600. Well, what's the point? Just for your fuel. Okay, I get it, man. I understand you think it makes perfect business sense, but you start dealing with that stuff, man, and the amount of hassle involved in it, why would anybody carry it? And that's why the rates are screwed up. Let those guys that are in that area haul that crap out of there. And they need to get the rate up to where it's supposed to be. Not no $500-$600 to haul a load of cotton bales that need to be tarped. And no, hell no. Ain't no way. You come back empty. You get another load of pipe, go back out there and do it again all week. That's how it's supposed to be, in my opinion, man. Y'all leave this garbage, low-paying freight where it is until they get the rates where they need to be. And if we start doing that, then we'll be getting somewhere. It's still freight that pays money coming out of these areas, but it's not your bottom. It's not your bottom of the barrel basic freight. So that's where again I kind of talked about the differentiation. I'm not talking about West Texas. West Texas, it happens every now and then. If you have a tanker endorsement in hazmat, there are loads that come out of West Texas, totes and stuff like that from time to time. But most guys aren't running around with the insurance to haul totes and hazmat. It just isn't. That's just not what most people are doing. Now, if you can afford that, hey, that's more money for you. Same thing if you go out to the southeast, your chemicals are going to be your bread and butter if you got the stuff you need to be able to do it. Okay, but most of these guys that they got coming out of Mexico, they don't have what they need to be hauling the hazmat coming back out. That's what separates the money, that separates how much money is going to be in this stuff. So y'all just pay attention to it, because this is how they destroy certain lanes. They destroy certain lanes by flooding it with certain drivers. And if you're mixed in with that pool of your basic drivers, you're going to be beholden to the rates that pool of basic drivers are going to get. So get hip to this stuff. And if you can, stay out of some of these areas where the freight's not paying to come back. Just don't mess with it. It's not, just no point in messing with it. I don't go to Ohio. I don't go to Detroit. I don't go to Chicago, because it's our head hauls going up to Ohio are sub $2 a mile, because the backhaul coming back out of Ohio is over $2 a mile. That's how. So it can be the other way around too. But I can't justify going up to Ohio for less than $2 a mile. It doesn't make any sense. Why would you do that? But they're banking on somebody doing that. And that just shows you, man, that they're playing the psychological game with people, trying to get you to say, well, I can make it wash in the back end and da 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 da. Nah, man, don't do that. Like I say, take the Texas model, which is where, hey, I'm gonna get enough money to do a round trip if you want to mess around on the back end. Everything's covered to begin with. And to hell with the rest of it. You know what I'm saying? That's just my perspective on it. Please read this story when y'all get time. I guess I can go through it and kind of read it. It might be a 2-minute read. Okay. Jerry Reed, a owner of a small South Texas trucking company, said he's fighting to survive against other carriers who continue to misuse Mexico's B-1 visa drivers to deliver loads point to point with the United States. Reed, whose name has been changed for the story, spoke to FreightWaves on condition of anonymity out of the fear of retribution. As FreightWaves reported on March and April 2021, and several news stories, trucking and transportation operators in the U.S. and Mexico have been violating cabotage rules by misusing foreign B-1 visa drivers to deliver loads with the United States. Cabotage rules prevent foreign nationals in the U.S. on B-1 business visas from competing with U.S. truckers on loads moving point to point in the U.S. The regulations are meant to protect driver jobs in the U.S. trucking industry. Okay, so this is there for a particular reason. Reed and other trucking industry stakeholders told FreightWaves that the misuse of Mexico-based B-1 visa drivers creates unjust but significant savings to U.S. carriers that set up outsourced B-1 driver fleets at a lower cost. So that's all your American domiciled carriers starting Mexican carriers, right, on paper. The trucking company owner said the misuse of B-1 visa drivers has gotten worse since FreightWaves first wrote about it 3 years ago. Even more trucking companies in the U.S. are employing Mexican B-1 visa drivers to undercut trucking rates in the country while paying Mexico-based drivers less than U.S. trucking drivers, he added. It's definitely evolved over the last several years. Now I'm seeing more U.S. companies open a division in Mexico, then get drivers with B-1 visas and use them as drivers in the U.S. Reed said, I think that is the next evolution in this. Now you see U.S. companies that have figured out how to get a paper company set up in Mexico. A Mexico-based driver with a B-1 visa can pick up a load in a Mexican city, such as Nuevo Laredo, which is just across the border with Laredo. The B-1 driver then takes that load across the border to Laredo. That's legal. The driver can either deadhead back to Mexico or take another load headed directly back into Nuevo Laredo, which is, Mexico. Instead of returning to Mexico, however, B-1 drivers are then often hired by companies to pick up new loads and go further into the U.S., often taking the work for less pay, which is illegal. Reed said carriers with divisions in Mexico sometimes put U.S. and Mexican license plates on the vehicles to allow them to put either a U.S. or a Mexican driver in the truck. It just depressed rates, Reed said. Look on the load board, and you can just punch in South Carolina to Texas or Georgia to Texas, and you're looking at 90 cents to $1 a mile. And these are the guys that are using B1 visa drivers. They get it that way because who else is going to do it at that rate? All right. So he's just saying, continuing the basically the B1 guys go out to Georgia and back on the cheap, but the carrier that's in Atlanta, for example, doesn't understand why rates are really, really low going to Texas. This is the reason why, because those companies will take whatever they can to get back here because they have it. They have to. It's artificially blowing the rate model for everyone else that maybe doesn't really understand why. And so what he's saying is kind of what I'm thinking, right? They're going to basically destroy the head haul backhaul model because they're you have areas where it's becoming completely nonsensical for people to even operate in these lanes anymore. So for me, it's a good thing because I'm not in Laredo. I'm not in South Texas. So I'm kind of above all that. And plus we haul a lot of chemicals in my area. So we usually do okay anyway. And we could come out and do decent money wise. But if I was like in Dallas's freight market is kind of weird, and the stuff in Laredo is you have to be going to certain points for it to make any sense. And a lot of those loads, man, unless you're going to maybe the Carolinas and you're bypassing Atlanta, because Atlanta's really the worst. You have to bypass Atlanta and go all the way to the Carolinas. And then you have to come back with something that's not coming back to Laredo because the rates coming all the way back to Laredo are garbage. The rates going to Dallas are usually garbage too. Okay? Some of the stuff going to Houston is not so bad. But if you're going to this is how it looks, man. If you go to Atlanta and get a load coming back to Houston, it will pay more than a load going all the way to Laredo. Okay? That should explain to y'all what's going on here. Because they know who they're trying to get back into certain areas. So just don't play the game, if you can figure out how to, work around it. So that's it. Y'all can read the rest of the story on the website. Like I say, subscribe, Freightwave. They do very good work in exposing a lot of the stuff that's going on in the industry. This is also why I think some of these companies are going out of business, because this model is kind of broken, and the major carriers are the main ones that were doing this stuff. They're the main ones that had a decent paying head haul, and they always banked on the back haul just being something to cover up fuel or cover the driver pay costs, whatever. That crap's falling apart because they're the ones that are basically driving the rates down on these back hauls because they're flooding the gate. They're flooding these areas with their drivers in these certain tight freight markets, and it's just kicking down the rates coming back out of there, and it's actually their fault. So that's it for this one. Y'all take care. We'll talk to y'all later on.